In this video, you will learn more best practices when building a Power Automate flow. This walkthrough covers some of the different flyout options in Flow and how using them can lead to a better manageability and performance for your flows. To get started, let's talk about renaming your actions. In the flow on the screen, you can see the flow that we walked through in the previous video. And you notice here that we're using the default names. So for example, manually trigger a flow, get items, compose, and apply to each. Often you'll find that by using the flyouts here, so menu item, and then doing a rename, changing this to get items filtered for executives, which is what we did in the OData query in the previous video, this will give you more indication and make your flow easier to understand and read after the fact. When you're looking at renaming actions inside of Flow, you'll want to come up with a consistent pattern that you use throughout your organization to make it easy to move amongst different flows in your environment and to let people get up to speed faster. In addition to renaming flows, you can also go here to the menu and you can add a comment. This will allow you to add a comment section here where you could explore additional details by putting in a longer description of what you did or why you did it. That's one method for it. Another way that we might use comments is we go down here to our compose, we can see that we have a length expression. And if we hover over that, we can see the entire formula. Oftentimes we find it's best if you click on the formula here, you come into the expression, Control A, Control C, and then you can go back here, add a comment, and then Control V and paste that in. And so now when you're reviewing your flow and trying to troubleshoot your code or wanting to reuse it later, it's real easy to see not only what this step does, but see the actual expression that was used. Another best practice is to understand in the menu the settings. So all actions, you're going to see different options for settings. For example, this SharePoint Get Items action here has some different things about securing the inputs, the outputs. You can control timeouts and retries. But also up here at the top, you see pagination. And so this allows you to control the amount of items that are returned from one of these calls that is getting table data. So if you're only getting, a handful of items back, you don't have to worry about this, but maybe you have a query that's getting thousands of records back and you want to control the chunks that those come back in. Well, you can enable pagination and then say, hey, I want to get these back in up to, the first 5,000 records. And so then now this will automatically configure Flow to paginate through the results as they come back instead of just trying to get them all at once or only getting a limited set of your data. So there's all the different actions have different settings, so you should familiarize yourself with them as you explore different actions. And speaking of iterating data, if we exit out of this one and then we can just cancel. If we go down here to apply to each, one of those settings for this one, right here under settings, is the concurrency control. So by default, apply to each is grabbing each record that comes back and processing 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, etc. And so that can take a long time in larger data sets. So here you can turn on the concurrency control and then set the degree of parallelism. And so this default setting here, now it'll do the apply to eaches, but in batches of 20, speeding up the process immensely in most cases. With this, you can adjust the parallelism all the way from 1 all the way up to 50. More is not always better, though. It is possible with these larger numbers to overwhelm the end data source. So you might want to do some testing here to find out what is the number that can change it for you. But oftentimes, that default of 20 is a great starting spot to get your flow running better and performing more actions at once. If we cancel out of that and go back to our menu here, so we've looked at rename and add a comment and how they can help you. We've talked about settings. Also keep in mind that you can take advantage of peak code. Now in this case, apply to each doesn't have a peak code, so there isn't available, it's grayed out. But if we go back up here to our get items for SharePoint and do peak code, this will actually show you that the interface that you were just using is actually generating this JSON. And so if you want to see what does your OData filter actually look like, what table, where's the GUID of the table. So peak code is another best practice for you to better understand the underlying data. Sometimes Flow configures things and you're like, how does it work with a lookup column in Dataverse or a choices column or one of those complex columns? You can come in here, configure the interface to the UI, and then peak code to get some insight into what's actually happening underneath the scenes. So adding these little tips to better document your code and then to better understand what is going on, along with understanding that some of the settings can increase your performance, are some great best practices to add to your flow skills.